and an honor for me to be here with you in Machon Torah Vada'at, and Ḥajam Cohen and myself and we had a lot of discussions, and we decided that this would be a good topic. And the topic tells of Rabbi Yitzhak Farhi, who was born in Safed in 1779. He was from the famous Farhi family, a very distinguished and very rich family in the Galil and in Sham, in Damasco. And he moved to Jerusalem, and he became an important rabbi in Jerusalem. And he lived there, and he was a leader, one of the leaders of the community. And he also had a special gift of speaking to the people and giving dirashot and encouraging them to observe and become close to the Torah and to God. And he published several books. One of the books which was published in 1842 is called Matok Midevash. And in this book, he has the following story, which we will now read together, about something that happened in Damasco. And I'll begin reading it. Ma'aseh Norah Ba'ir Damasco, a very special and important story or happening that occurred in the city of Damasco. Bizeman Harav Rabbi Moshe Galante. Now, Rabbi Moshe Galante is a real historical person. He was the chief rabbi of Damasco. He died in 1806. So if this book came out in 1842, and if the author, Rabbi Farhi, was born in 1779, so when he was born, and when he's 10 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old, the Rabbi Galante was a real person living in Damasco. He's not saying it happened Me'evel Nahara Sambation in the ancient times in some different place. It's a real historical place and a historical person. He was a completely righteous person. He knew all of the 7 wisdoms. What is the 7 wisdoms? Rhetoric, mathematics, poetry, music, the classical liberal arts, which come from the classical Greek and Roman tradition, and which were held to be the central study for anybody interested in humanistic studies. So you see that one of the first things that Rabbi Farhi is telling us, that we should understand what a great person Rabbi Galante was. He's telling us he was wise in general human wisdom. In fact, he was Shalem Bakol. He knew all of those wisdom. Zulat Goy Ehad Ishmael, but there was one Muslim man. So in Damasco, there was at the same time a Muslim scholar who also was knowledgeable about all the Sheva Chokhmot, but this Muslim person had an advantage over Rabbi Galante. What? זאת הייתה יתרה להגוי מן החכם הרב האיש משה, שכל מי שהיה לו חולה, anybody that in their family someone was sick, היה הולך אצל הגוי השייך, right? He's writing sheikh. Why is he writing it with kaf? Because it's not ha, it's cha, of a sheikh. So he doesn't write het, but he writes with kaf. היה הולך אצל הגוי השייך הנזכר, והיה מתחנן לו שיתפלל על החולה. He would ask the sheikh to pray for the sick person. והיה מתפלל השייך בהתבודדות חצי שעה. The sheikh would go somewhere separately, privately, and he would pray about that person. And then he would come back, והיה אומר זה חי וזה מת. בר מינן. What does it mean, bar minan?
God forbid.
It should be far away from us. Bar is outside, far away from us. להבדיל כרבי חנינא בן דוסה. So he says להבדיל, but to say about any human being that has this power of Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa is to say something very unusual about this person. When I wrote an article about this, I did a search. Which Jewish rabbis from the time of the Tanaim until now, it says that they had this power like Hanina ben Dosa, almost nobody. But here we have a sheikh, a Muslim sheikh in Damasco, let's say the year 1800, 1790, and he has this power. כאשר הגיעו הדברים באוזני הרב ז"ל, when Rabbi Galanti heard about this, תמך מאוד על הדבר, he was very surprised. וכה אמר אל ליבו, and he said to himself, זה הגוי יותר קדוש וטהור ממני? How could it be that a goy has greater powers than me? הלא עובד את השם אני, I worship, follow God. ועוסק בתורת השם ומצוותיו כל היום. I do the mitzvot, everything, I study Torah. ומדוע לא אהיה כמו הגוי אשר הנזכר? How could it be that this boy has a greater power than me? Now it's clear that when we understand that if the sheikh came back and he said this will live and that will die, okay, it actually happened. Otherwise, nobody would come to him anymore, right? So it doesn't only stay that he has the power, it really happens. So, but the rabbi is hurt by this. How could a goy be greater than him? ולא תהיה כהנת כפונדקית. This is a mashal from the Mishnah, the Kohanim. אנחנו עם כהנים, the goy kadosh. And the pundakit is like the goy, the person that cleans the rooms in the hotel. So kal v'chomer, how could it be? ועל זה גדל צערו של הרב מאוד. He was very sorry about this. ויבקש אופן ללכת אל בית הגוי השייך הנזכר ולהיות מצוי אצלו. Now he wanted to have some connection to this sheikh, and he would discover what the secret patent is. There must be some secret patent that the goy has. ועל ידי גלגול דברים אפשר יגלה לו השייך באיזו סיבה זכה לכל הכבוד הזה. If he becomes friendly with the sheikh, so maybe the sheikh would be able to discover how the sheikh has this special power. ויקרא הרב את פרנס העיר ויצב עליו לאמור. Now you know that in any normal community, the rabbi is not the head of the community. The head of the community is the Va'ad, Ma'amad, and the rabbi works. He has a contract with the community. So this rabbi is sitting and studying and teaching, and he says to the Parnas, the head of the committee, who also has relations with the entire non-Jewish public. He says to him, Lech el ha-sheikh ha-nizkar v'chot omar elav. Go to the sheikh and tell him, Rabban shel Yisrael, the Jewish rabbi, Shama et shim'acha hatov, heard good things about you. ויש את רצונו לבוא אצלך ולהקביל פניך אם תיתן לו רשות. Tell him that the Jewish rabbi would very much like to come and greet him. כי היה האיש ההוא, the sheikh, גדול מעל כל השרים, was a very, very important person. Now this is the time of the Ottoman Empire, right? היה השייך הנזכר. He was more important than all of the people that have offices and jobs in Damasco and the whole province. וכל השרים הגדולים היו מרבים מתנות כדי לזכות לקבל פניו. He didn't accept anyone. Only special people at special times he would agree to meet them. ובאים ומשתחווים אליו כדי לקבל ברכתו. They would come and ask for his blessing. Now, apparently from this description, we're talking about a Sufi sheikh. Okay, a Sufi is a person who also has mystical wisdom and mystical practice. You know that Rabbi Avraham ben Harambam was very interested in this type of activity, and he and his son and grandson all believed that Sufi practices and activities were originally from Nevi'ei Israel, and somehow we lost it and they have it, and therefore we can learn from them to be close to God by following the Sufi way. Okay, so he went.
What is exactly the Sufis like? Kabbalah on the Muslims, or?
It's not Kabbalah as far as I know. I don't think they have a written Torah, but they have a Torah Sheba'al Peh, and they have different practices and activities like meditation, like special kind of dancing. If you chant over and over many times, this will bring you to a certain feeling in your mind that and you will feel close to God. There are also people like this today, also in Eretz Israel, also in Turkey, also elsewhere. The people in Saudi Arabia are very much opposed to this, and they feel that this is Avodah Zarah. And but okay, in Turkey, there's a lot of Sufi. So the Sheikh, what does the Sheikh say in line 25? גם אני שמעתי את שם הרב שלכם כי איש חכם הוא. I heard about your rabbi that he's very wise. וחפצי לראותו ואם כן אומר לו בוא יבוא לא יאחר. Tell him to come as soon as possible. Now this is not very taken for granted, because if there's a minority culture and a majority culture, usually the people in the minority culture know about the majority culture. But the majority culture many times doesn't even pay attention to the minority, and therefore the interesting thing is that this sheikh said that he heard about Rabbi Galante. וישוב הפרנס אל הרב, he went back to him, ויספר לו כל דברי השייך, ויקום הרב ז"ל, וילך שם. He told him that the sheikh would like to meet him. ויהי כי ראות השייך פני הרב. Immediately when the sheikh saw the face of the rabbi, נשא חן בעיניו. Now this is reminding us, these words, נשא חן בעיניו, is still. Right? So you could imagine who now wants something from who? Rabbi Galante, Ḥajam Galante wants something from the sheikh. So from the dynamic, the sheikh is like the king, and Rabbi Galante is like Esther. He wants the sheikh to like him, and you'll see that there's ways that they. ויקבלהו בכבוד ובסבר פנים יפות ויושיבהו לפניו ושאל בשלומו. Also, it's not self-evident to tell him to sit. If you're in the presence of a very important holy person, in many cases, okay, do you see what they told about the Sarim, of the Ottoman officials? When they came, they used to bow down to this person. Certainly they didn't sit with him. And immediately what did the sheikh ask? אני שמעתי עליך כי איש חכם אתה, היש לך ידיעה בחוכמה פלונית. One of these areas of the seven wisdoms, is it true that you know about that? ויאמר אליו, אדוני, חנני אלוקים מעט מחוכמה זאת. Who says this? Rabbi Galante. והתחיל השייך לנסות את הרב, ויפתח הרב את פיו בחוכמה. The rabbi began to speak. The sheikh sees that it's not a little bit. The rabbi is really a great expert, very knowledgeable about this. Vehu, the sheikh, היה חושב בדעתו כי אין כמוהו. He thought that nobody was knowledgeable like him. וכאשר ראה חוכמת הרב קשר עמו אהבה רבה. When the sheikh saw how wise the rabbi was, he immediately loved him. Now what's interesting, what happened when Rabbi Galante heard how smart, knowledgeable the sheikh was? He was jealous. So we see that the sheikh, from his midot, has an advantage over the rabbi, because when he sees somebody that has an advantage over him, he does not jealous, he loves him because he wants to learn. The sheikh said to him, Ahi yedidi, da'alecha, you should know, my brother, my beloved, my friend, כי שימחתני היום בחוכמתך, כי על כן הנני מחלק בניך, I beg of you, שאל נא תימנע מהלוך אליי לפחות פעם אחת בשבוע, don't come to me less than one time every week, כדי להשתעשע עמך בחוכמתך. The sheikh now asked the rabbi, make sure to come visit me at least once a week because I love so much discussing and learning with you. וישלחהו בכבוד גדול. Now the rabbi went back to the Jewish quarter of Damascus, and the sheikh is in his palace. וכאשר עברו שני ימים, לא היה יכול לעמוד השייך מרוב התשוקה. Today, when you hear this, one man has great teshukah for another, it doesn't sound so good. But in those times, it was clearly that he had a love of wisdom and he couldn't wait. וישלח אל הרב שני אנשים עבדים וסוס לרכוב עליו למען יבוא אליו בכבוד. He sent two servants to the sheikh with a horse. Now, what's special about this? According to the rules of Omar, Tena'e Omar, Jews are not allowed to ride on horses. Only Muslims are allowed to ride on horses. That's part of the status of the Muslims over the Jews. But the sheikh doesn't care about status. He really loves wisdom, and he gives the rabbi the great honor that in a normal framework of the hierarchy, the rabbi would never ride on a horse.
But the sheikh couldn't have consequences, legal consequences.
If the sheikh sent it, and this sheikh is so important and a great thing, then if the rabbi would do it by himself, big problem. וילך אל השייך ויקבלהו בכבוד גדול. The sheikh greeted him with great honor, ויחבק לו, he hugged him, וינשק לו, ויאמר אליו, he said, the sheikh said to the rabbi, דע ידידי, כי משעת פרדתך ממני נפשי עם נפשך נקשרה. My soul is connected to your soul, I couldn't wait. ולא יכולתי עוד להמתין ולהתאפק. עד ששלחתי אחריך, and that's why I sent these two servants and the horse, למען תבוא אליי, למען השקט להבת התשוקה. I couldn't wait. I have such great love and wish that you will be with me. ובתוך הדברים שאלנו השייך, יש לך ידיעה מחוכמה פלונית, about another aspect of the wisdom, ויאמר חנני אלוקים וייתם לי גם את זה. God has granted me also to know that other wisdom. והתחילו לישא וליתן באותה חוכמה. They started discussing, I don't know what, logic. וראה השייך שגם בזה מלא וגדוש. He saw that the rabbi knew much about that also. וישמח שמחה גדולה ויאמר. Now the sheikh was really happy. Why? Because he really loves chokhmah. And here is somebody that he could really learn from and learn with. He finally has a chavuta that knows maybe more than him in these areas, and that's what he really loves. והתחילו לישא וליתן באותה חוכמה, אוקיי? ויאמר אליו, אם נא מצאתי חן בעיניך תבוא אליי בכל שני ימים. Come every 2 days, not every week. Every 2 days, come to visit me. וכן עשה הרב, כי חפץ הוא בתכלית המבוקש. Why did the rabbi want to be together with the sheikh?
How he knows.
Right. He doesn't say, oh, I'm so happy the sheikh knows so much wisdom. I love to talk about chokhmah. No. He has a secret plan. He will find out how the sheikh can be like Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa. So you see, once again, from the side of the personality, the sheikh is an open, loving, he really loves chokhmah. He wants, even with a Jewish person who in the social Muslim hierarchy is below him, he doesn't care. He gives great honor to anybody, but the rabbi, it's like lo lishma, right? The rabbi is lo lishma, he wants to get something from the sheikh. So then, he comes every time, עד שראה השייך שהרב היה בקיא בתכלית לכל שבח, ביסוד that the rabbi knows everything. והשייך היה חסר ממנו הקדמה בחוכמה שלי. There was the seventh wisdom, and in that seventh wisdom, the sheikh, there was something he didn't know. ואז זה שאל השייך את הרב, יש לך ידיעה בחוכמה פלונית? Do you know this? And he said, שבח לקל יתברך, שאני שלם בחוכמה, אז I know it. And then the sheikh, אז נפל השייך לרגלי הרב. Why? He really wants to learn. אם נא מצאתי חן בעיניך למדני נא את החוכמה הזאת, כי הנה, please teach me this wisdom that I'm lacking in it, and I beg you to teach me. Oh, now the sheikh jumps, says, now is the opportunity. אז אמר לו הרב, אדוני, כשאני למדתי את כל אלו החוכמות, when I studied these wisdoms, ביוקר עמדו לי ולא למדתי אותם בחינם, I had to pay the teachers a lot of money in order to learn all of this. ואם אני נותן כסף, וגם אני לא אלמד אותך בחינם. He said to the sheikh, I'll teach you this, but you have to pay me. And the sheikh says, נוקבה שכרך עליי ואתן ככל אשר תשית עליי, I'll pay anything. מאחר שאני שלם בכל החוכמות, because I want to be perfect in all of the wisdom, ואם אני נותן כסף וזהב לרופא, I get a lot of money, כדי להשיג זאת החוכמה, in order to get this additional aspect of the chokhmah that I really want, ולא יחסר ממני דבר, הלא מצערו, it's nothing for me, I'll pay anything. Why? Because wisdom is more precious than anything, right? You tell, no, your tongue, okay, it's like Torah, it's priceless, I'll give anything. אז אמר לו הרב, the rabbi said, חלילה לי אם אמכור החוכמה הזאת במחיר כסף וזהב. I don't want money. I want something, but I don't want money. כי אם בחוכמה אחרת שתלמדני, I want you to teach me something else. אמר לו השייך, וכי נעלם דבר ממך, הלא כל מה שאני יודע, אתה מכיר יותר ממני. We discussed all of the wisdoms. You know everything. You even know a certain aspect of the seventh wisdom that I don't know yet. So what is there that I can teach you? מה החוכמה אשר אני יודע ואין אתה יודע? אמר לו, now the rabbi says, יש בך חוכמה נפלאה והיא רחוקה ממני. Yes, you have a certain special wisdom that I don't have. אמר לו, the sheikh says, מהי החוכמה הזאת? What is that thing that I have and you don't have? אמר לו, מה שאתה מתפלל על החולים, that you pray for the sick persons, וספרי החיים וכולי לפניך הם גלויים. What does it mean וכולי? Ḥajam and Mavet, but he doesn't want to say Mavet. So he says the book of life and etc. is open to you. That's the wisdom that I don't have. If you will teach me the circuit of that wisdom, you'll teach me this, I'll teach you that. Now, obviously, the type of wisdom that he is now asking the Sheikh to teach him is a different type of wisdom from Sheva Chochmot. Sheva Chochmot is open to the entire human beings in the entire world. If they learn and study, they can know everything. It is what is called an esoteric and open and publicly available knowledge. But Sifrei HaChaim and Amitim, that's something else. It's from a different sphere of knowledge, and this is exoteric. The other one is exoteric. This is secret knowledge. It's not public. אז אמר לו השייך, הקשית לשאול ולא ייתכן שיגלה הדבר הזה לשום נברא שבעולם. I cannot tell this secret wisdom to anybody in the world. אמר לו הרב, גם אני אי אפשר שגלה החוכמה הזאת, אשר ממך נעלמה. I'm very sorry. I also can't teach you this thing. אם לא על ידי חילופים, only by exchange. חוכמה תחת חוכמה. חוכמה in exchange for חוכמה. אמר לו השייך, די ידידי, no my friend, you should know, שאני מושבע מאבותיי שלא אגלה הדבר הזה לשום אדם. I learned it. It's like a Talmid learning Maaseh Merkavah. I learned it from my teacher, and they made me swear that I wouldn't teach it to others. אמר לו הרב, גם אני מושבע שלא ללמד את החוכמה הזאת לשום נברא. Now, obviously, this can't be true. What does it mean? They made me swear not to teach mathematics. Mathematics, there's books, it's not a secret thing. So obviously, the rabbi is saying something which cannot be actually true. So you want me to teach something about mathematics? I have to promise my teacher I will never tell the secret of how to solve the equations in the third degree. It's a big secret. אבל אני אומר, כיוון שהיא לטובתי כדי ללמוד חוכמה אחרת, מה שאין בלבדי מותר לי ואין כאן שבועה. Making like a היתר נדרים. I, in fact, promised not to tell. But certainly, when I promised that, it wasn't on the thought that if somebody would ask me a different wisdom and I could get it, then en kan shavua. This is like a rabbinic way of thinking, right? Im ken gam ata mutar lecha. He says to the sheikh, so you know what? Just like it's permitted for me by this heter nedarim. Also, you could do it. מאחר שאין אתה מזכה מוכר החוכמה בדמים, you're not getting money. כי אם בחוכמה אשר אתה צריך לעוגה תהיה מושלם מכל החוכמה. So when you promise not to tell this secret, it's not for money, but to tell the secret in order to get some other knowledge, that's okay. מותר לך. Now, the sheikh really wants to learn this thing in the mathematics. Finally, he agrees. אמר לו השייך, אין לו יהי כי דבריך, אבל קשה ממך הדבר. It's very difficult. וירא אנוכי, I'm afraid, שלא תוכל לעשות הדבר אשר צריך לדעת הסוד הגדול הזה. You have to go through a certain process, preparation, before you can get to know this wicked, and it's very difficult. I'm worried that you won't be able to do it. Okay, now, who is telling this to? Rabbi Farhi is telling this story to the Jewish public in Jerusalem in the middle of the 18th century. Okay, so apparently, he thinks, excuse me, the middle of the 19th century. So this is happening. The story is set in Damascus in the end of the 18th century, and this is about 40 years later in Jerusalem. Go back to Damascus. It's very difficult for you. The rabbi says, I'm willing to do anything. אני מוכן לקבל עליי את כל הדבר הקשה, כל אשר תאמר אליי אעשה. Like on Mount Sinai. כל אשר דיבר השם נעשה. Right? I'll do anything. אז אמר לו השייך, listen carefully. אם כן שמע בקולי לאשר אני מצווה אותך. Listen carefully what I'm telling you. אתה, קום ולך לביתך. Go to your house. והכין עצמך ביום הזה לעת ערב לקבל תענית 2 ימים רצופים. קבלת תענית is an idea that we have in halakha, right? That somebody who is not obligated to a ta'anit, don't need to לקבל ta'anit kippur. But if you're choosing to do a ta'anit, then before that you make a decision, a mental decision that you will fast. לקבל תענית 2 ימים רצופים, והיזהר בסעודה שלא תאכל בשר ולא תשתה יין. Where does this come from? Don't eat wine or bread.
They don't drink alcohol. Muslims don't drink alcohol.
It comes from Kohen Gadol before Yom Kippurim. They say, pen ye keri. They say, don't eat this and don't eat that in preparation for Yom Kippurim. So this, we are now moving into a mode of ta'anit, and this ta'anit is going to be similar to Yom Kippurim, and there's going to be some similarity between the people and the Kohen Gadol. ואחר הסעודה, התקן עצמך לבית הטבילה. Now also בית הטבילה was in the Mikdash of the Kohen Gadol. So by the use of these words, Rabbi Farhi is directing our mind that now is going to happen a very special thing that is similar somehow to what happens with the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippurim. התקן עצמך לבית הטבילה, והלבש אותך מחלצות, wear special beautiful clothes. ובשני ימים אלו שאתה מתענה, you're now going to fast for 2 days straight, צריך שתטבול בוקר וערב, ופשפש במעשיך, תחזור בתשובה. Consider all the sins that you did, כי אין אדם צדיק בארץ וכולי. Okay, so there's a whole procedure of chazara b'tshuva, tevilah, fasting. So they're getting ready for a very big religious, spiritual event. ויהי כאשר שמע הרב דברי השייך, נתלהב ליבו, he got very excited in his heart. ויאמר לו, כן אעשה כאשר דיבר, I'll do exactly what you say. ויאמר לו, לך לשלום. He knows to say לך לשלום, and not לך בשלום. Okay? And וביום השלישי תבוא אליי, on the third day, fast 1 day, fast 2 days, on the third day, come to me. What is like Yom HaShelishi, right? It's like Abraham and Yitzhak and so on. It's on the third day. תבוא אליי והודיעך סוד הדבר הגדול הזה. I'll tell you the secret of this special thing. ויקום הרב וילך את ביתו בלב נשבר ונדקר, with a very humble heart. ויעש ככל אשר ציווה עליו. He did exactly like he was told. ירד וטבל. But once again, this is from Yom Kippurim, Kohen Gadol. ולבש בגדי לבן. Same thing. וכן עשה בשני הימים כאשר צווה. He did on the same 2 days. What exactly? He was, שלא פסק תעניתו בליל השלישי. Even after the second day was over, he didn't eat. But he understood that he was supposed to continue the ta'anit. And in the morning, ויהי בבוקר אחר גמר תפילתו הלך אצל השייך. He went now to the sheikh. וישא השייך את עיניו וירא, also right from הר המוריה. והנה הרב בא בלא כוח. He sees that the rabbi is coming and he's very weak. Why? He's already the 3rd day of fasting. He now has begun. ויחרד לקראתו ויאמר, he rushed up to him and said, בוא ברוך השם. Now, what does the sheikh say when he says Baruch Hashem? He says Allah. He doesn't say the name that we use. He's speaking, they're both speaking all the time in Arabic. Obviously, they're speaking in Arabic because they both live in Damascus, and this is what they both have a common language. The sheikh doesn't know Hebrew. Bo Baruch Hashem, shemitzurat panecha nikal, from the way of your face I see that you did exactly what I told you. Amar lo Arab, ve'adayin ani omed b'ta'anit, I'm still not eating. Amar lo השייך, יפה עשית, כל הכבוד. וישר כוחך. מעתה, now, okay. You've prepared yourself. I've prepared myself. מעתה בוא ואראה אותך הסוד הגדול הזה. Now I'll show you the secret. וילך אחריו אל חדר אחד. They both went to a certain room. שמפתח החדר הזה לא היה נמסר לשום נברא כי אם בידו דווקא. This key to this room, only one person in the world had the key. Who was it? The sheikh. ויפתח השייך את הפתח וייכנסו שניהם יחדיו. No, שניהם יחדיו also comes from the עקדה. Okay, so you see, and this is a great day. This is a story. It's in very clear Hebrew. Anybody today can understand, knows Hebrew, you can read this story. It's written almost 200 years ago. It's very clear, but the author automatically uses phrases from Tanakh. And if you understand those phrases, you understand the quality of what's happening beyond the words. If you don't know Tanakh, you won't be able to make this connection.
All the time he's using Tanakh literature reference.
נכון. ואת הדלת סגרו לבלתי יקרב איש זר עליהם, ויצאו מן החדר אל פרדס אחד נחמד למראה. They went into the room, they closed the door. On the other side of the room was another door. They came out to a beautiful garden. Now you should know that, of course, Pardes comes from a word of paradise. It's a special when you,
It's a special place in the Gan Eden.
ובאמצע הגן בריכה מלאת מים חיים נמשכת ממימי אמנה ופרפר. What is אמנה ופרפר? Okay, when Naaman comes to Elisha, Elisha says to him, go make tevilah in the Yarden. And Naaman says, Hatov Tov, Amana ufarpar naharot Damascus, the waters of Damascus. Okay, Damascus is an oasis. It's in the middle of the desert, but it's near big mountains. From the mountains, and there's snow on the top, come down waters of streams. And since ancient times, 2000 BC or whatever, they took the streams in channels through Damascus, and people could drink from that. And the rich people, this stream, they broke up. This will go to this palace. This will go to this palace. This will go to this palace. And there's reports even from the 19th century about rich people's homes in Damascus that they have the waters of Amana or Farpar going through their yard. And there was a pool. ובצד הבריכה ספסל אחד, one bench, ובו מוכנים שתי חליפות סמלות לבנות, special clothing. אחד להרב ואחד לעצמו. The sheikh had prepared this. ויאמר לו השייך לרב, הבה נרדה ונעשה טבילה. Let's go down and do טבילה. טרם בואנו אל המקום המקודש. Before we come to the holy place. Now, once again, this reminds us of the Jewish preparation of Kohen Gadol. But I talked about this with a friend of mine who's a professor of Islamic literature and tradition. He said, certainly in Islamic tradition, there is in heaven a brecha, hod, and hod. And to here will the tzaddikim come in Olam Haba, and they together will enjoy the garden and the waters together with the Prophet. Okay, so this imagery is also an imagery that existed in the rich quarters of Damascus in real life, but it's also an imagery which is in Islamic tradition. וירדו שניהם אל תוך הבריכה ויעשו טבילה ויחליפו שמותיהם וילכו שניהם יחדיו. They טבילה, they put on these special garments, and now they came out. וילכו שניהם יחדיו. Once again, this is Avraham, Yitzchak. Where are they going? Har Hashem. והרב ז"ל משתאה ומחריש. He was totally surprised. What לדעת מה יהיה אחרית המוות? What would now happen? וישא עיניו הרב, he looked up, וירא בית אחד מבונה בתכלית היופי. There's a little house here, like a small sanctuary, incredibly beautifully built. ודלתותיו כסף מזוקק. It's pure silver, the gate of this place. ומצויר בכל מיני ציורים נעים אשר אין כמוהו בהיכלי מלך. Now, this is probably talking about the work of stucco and of alabaster to make it very beautiful decoration, because of course they had no pictures. In Islam, you're not allowed any pictures, but you can have very beautiful decorations. וכאשר קרב הרע השייך לפתח דלת הבית, אמר לרב. Now they're about to open the door, and he says to the rabbi, היזהר להיכנס בבית הזה במורא וברעדה. You come in with fear and trembling, וממני תראה, וכך תעשה. ויפתח הדלת וירא והנה בניין מפואר, it's a beautiful place, ונגד פתח הבית, on the opposite one, היכל קטן בתכלית היופי, כאילו ארון קודש קטן, beautiful. וייכנס השייך אל הבית בחרדה גדולה, וישתחו ארצה 7 פעמים נגד ההיכל. He approaches this ארון קודש, this היכל, and he bows down 7 times as he is approaching it. ועל גבו, there's a parochet, beautiful with precious stones. וייכנס הבית, השייך לבית, וישתחו ארצה 7 פעמים, ויחרד הרב חרדה גדולה עד מאוד וחשב, now what does the rabbi think? שמא חס וחלילה, יש עבודה זרה וצלם בתוך ההיכל, maybe there is עבודה זרה inside. Now imagine, what does the rabbi think? After all of this connection to the sheikh, that the sheikh is maybe avodah zarah, and through avodah zarah he knows about the books of life and the books of death. It's an absurd idea, right? Who could know about the books of life and if saved Hashem Yitbarach? But the rabbi doesn't fully trust the sheikh. So what is he now going to do? He closed his eyes. Without looking. Where is this from? Berit ben Abetarim. ויאמר לו השייך, the sheikh said, קרב אל ההיכל הזה ופתח אותו ושם תמצא מבוקשך. Go now, open the doors of this Aron Kodesh, this Heichal, and there you will see what is the answer to your request. He said it quietly with great reverence. The doors of this Aron Kodesh, hayu zahav mezukak, beautiful gold with beautiful precious stones. וירא בתוך ההיכל לוח אחד, הפלק בתכלית היופי, וכתוב בו צורת המנורה. On this is the shape of the menorah with the 7 branches. בציור נאה עד אין תכלית, a beautiful representation of the menorah, וכתוב למעלה, שיוויתי השם לנגדי תמיד. But it didn't say Hashem, it said, like, Yud, K, Vav, K. ואותיות שם הוויה גדולות מאוד. והרב בראותו זה, שמח שמחה גדולה בליבו שלא השתחווה לבטלה. That's what he's thinking about. He doesn't think. So how does this explain how the sheikh knows all of this? He said, oh, Baruch Hashem, I didn't bow down to Avodah Zarah. You see, they also have a sense of humor. ופסל אחריו והשתחווה ויצא ויצאו שניהם יחדיו. Now they all go out. ואמר לו הרב, the rabbi now says to the sheikh, אתה אמרת לי שם אמצא מבוקש. You told me I'll see now the answer to my question. והנה לא נתגלה לי דבר סולת אשר הייתי. Big deal. We have this in all of our בתי כנסת. What's the big deal here? אמר לו השייך, תדע אחי, you should know, my brother, שאלו האותיות גדולות אשר ראית, which is what? שם הוויה. זה שמו של מי שאמר והיה העולם. ברור שאמר, right? הוא הבורא, הוא היוצר. והיה חושב ודעתו השייך, the sheikh thought that this fact, that this is the way to represent the creator, he thought nobody knew it. And then he said to him, no, that when I come and there's a sick person and I pray in front of this shiviti, and then I see, when I raise up my eyes, if it's all clear and shining, I know the person will live. If it's cloudy and it's not seen very clear, I know that the person has lechadila will die. See how much I love you. I showed you what I never showed to any person. Okay, so now Elias is getting very nervous. Okay. And then, okay. What do you think this tells us about the relationship between, or the possible relationship between Islam and Judaism, or between the Islamic relation to God and Jewish relation to God?
We were very, very similar, very united, very same ideologies.
Okay.
Like close cousins or brothers.
Okay, so first of all, clearly the person who telling us this story feels that the Islamic great sheikh and a Jewish great rabbi have much in common. First of all, they should have in common that they both are knowledgeable about all human wisdom. Second of all, they both want to come close to Hashem. And in this story, who of the two great people was closer to Hashem? The Sheikh. Okay, you can't avoid it. The Sheikh.
Why?
What?
Why?
Just first of all, from the nature of the story, we see that, okay, the rabbi on his own never had this experience that he looked at Shiviti, he could tell who's going to live and who's going to die. This whole representation, what?
He took it for granted.
Okay. He took for granted, but in a sense, because of that, he could not have this vision. Okay. So I had several times I taught this and I had interesting discussions, and somebody said, no, this story really tells us that Judaism is bigger. Why? Because inside really was Shem Havaya.
Doesn't mean anything. They're both using the same thing.
What?
They're both using the same thing. They come from the same source. They're using the same name.
Oh, so the question is, in all of this story, when these two great people had this experience, was it a physical experience or was it a spiritual experience? And if it was a spiritual experience, what words did the Muslims see there? In a certain sense, and this gets back to what you said, Shiviti Hashem, Yud Ke Vav Ke is not Hashem. Yud Ke Vav Ke, Yud Ke Vav is a representation of something that's beyond the letters. The one God created everything, and these letters are supposed to somehow enable us to go through the letters to have an experience of God. And then when it says Shiviti Hashem, the person who's Shaliach Tzibur, when it says there in front of him Shiviti Hashem, he is supposed to have in mind not the shape of the letters, but Hashem.
The shape of the letters are the connection with the Shem.
This should
This is the way to
enable.
connect with it.
This should enable the connection, but for
Way to connect.
apparently for the rabbi, it didn't. But for the sheikh, it did. And from this experience, the rabbi learns how much he has to go further in order to reach this spiritual level. And to my mind, I think we have to go now to the other. I'm sorry, we started a couple of minutes late. To my mind, this story, which Rabbi Farhi feels very comfortable to tell it to the public in Jerusalem in, let's say, the year 1830, 1835, tells us a very interesting thing about the Sephardic public in Jerusalem at that time. They didn't think the Muslims were idiots. They didn't think that it was bad, Sheba Chochmot.
But
Yes,
they are thinking that the most Kadosh place of the Muslims is something Jewish. Like you are like thinking about them like really what is important for them is our Torah, something like that.
well, the Torah, the Sheikh never studied, obviously. He doesn't know. He's a Sufi. He has certain experiences and he wishes to have certain experiences. And so it's now, the fact is that as far as we know, and certainly Rambam thought this, right? That the Muslims are miyahadim biyehud gamur. The Muslim, they are complete, absolute monotheists. They believe in one God who created everything that doesn't have any shape or any representation. And in that sense, put aside the Muslim religion in what their practices are. But the God to which they want to connect and whom they want to worship is not different.
Yeah, but there is a difference. The Quran, they know the Quran.
Okay.
The Quran.
Yes.
The Quran comes from the Torah.
From?
The Torah. The laws come from the Torah. Isn't that?
But the Quran comes from many sources. Muhammad also spoke to a lot of Christians.
But
But
his,
Jesus also appears in the Quran.
But
So
it doesn't come from the
I'm not
Torah.
talking now about the Quran, and I'm not talking now about the Torah. I'm talking about the
Ideology.
goal of the religious thought and worship, who
They're talking to the same.
they
God.
are
They're
trying to get to
Connect.
the same
Connect to the same
connection
God.
to the same God. מי שאמר והיה העולם הוא הבורא, הוא היוצר.
Uh-huh.
And in that sense, which is sometimes difficult for us to remember, Hashem is the God of the entire world.
yeah,
World.
yes.
We worship him. And God chose us, La'am Sigula.
What?
But God is the God and the creator of the entire world.
One question.
Yes. He sent Yonah and Navi to Nineveh
Yes.
because he cares
About
about
everybody.
human beings, not only Jewish human beings.
Oh.
And that God is the God of the entire world, and we worship him and they worship him. Now, how they worship him and how they get to this connection,
How? Who's the chosen people? Which one?
what?
Who's the chosen people?
Us.
Who's the chosen people
What
of
does
God?
the chosen people mean that only we have a connection to God?
No.
But it's not true. You just proved that it's not true.
Well, I didn't prove it, but that's what Rav said.
Yes.
But
I
the
have a question. I
narrative
think
sounds a little bit Jewish, the menorah in the
Obviously, the person that's telling it is a Jew.
That's what's confusing, but the message is broader, that God is the creator of everything.
And that Muslim can also connect to him. Yes, please.
I have a confusion because you are like putting into a competition who's right and who's wrong. But this is a story that is told by Rabbi Farhi many years after. He tells the story in a way that he wants to tell a story in a way that we are together. We have to empathize. We have to be together because he's putting all these references to the Bible in order for his public to accompany him, to be para emocionarlos, to get more emotion and to lead them into the story. So I think what the story really says is Rabbi Farhi wants to say that in order to go to God, which is only one for the Muslims, it's only one too, but Yitzhak is not somebody special for the Muslims. So these references to the Akedat Yitzhak,
When he goes into Kodesh
yes, but these are clearly putting there by the teller, not by the story itself. So the teller is putting a lot of secret intention into it. And I think the secret intention is to tell the public we should love our brothers and we should be together, whether they're Muslims or they're Jews.
And we and they should not think that only we want to get to God.
Yes.
The story is 100% true. Yes?
I don't know, I wasn't there. That's what Rabbi Ḥajam tells us. So that
Thank you.
Erev Tov.
Maybe 30 years ago, we had a party with our community. But all